You're watching Hot Stocks. Moving on in our building supply sector conversation, York Timber is next. It's a forestry management, sawmilling and wood product manufacturing business. Been around since 1916 down in the Mpumalanga area. Its main sawmilling facilities are at Sabie, Graskop, White River and some place I've never heard of called Jessievale. They also have a plywood manufacturing facility somewhere down there at the bottom of the mountains. Market cap of 1.6 billion rand, price to earnings ratio of 8.3, not a dividend payer at the present moment. So, Rowan, what else do you know about this one? I mean, this quite an interesting story. Change of management, some private equity guys in and out. So just give us the background.
It's quite a strange animal. I mean, they're very focused on production of wood products, and they interestingly hold a lot of biological assets, as they term them, which is essentially the forests, which they process to produce the plywood and the other materials. It looks like a lot of the materials are actually used more in the residential construction industry, as you can imagine, wood type products than in sort of large scale construction.
2x4 poles and joists for roof ceilings and that kind of thing.
That sort of thing, yes. So they have more exposure to sort of residential demand than more commercial or infrastructure.
So their competitors like PG Bison, which also manufactures those kinds of products and also has biological assets down in the same area where the big trees grow. But they also buy in timber, I read in their conversation.
Exactly. So and it's interesting, they say that they do a trade-off between maintaining the biological asset and not using it and then buying in the material instead.
What does that mean? So if you buy in some logs, then your own logs get bigger and they're worth a little bit more the next year.
Correct, yes. So
I should be a farmer.
There's a short-term trade-off between, I guess, obviously it would be much more cost-effective to farm and use their own logs as opposed to third-party logs. But in the longer term, as you're saying, the biological asset is growing, and they actually mentioned that in their results.
It's got a dynamic CEO, Pieter van Zyl, I think is his name. I seem to remember that RMB had a stake here, and I can't remember whether they're still there or not. There was Solly Tucker, the family, they emigrated.
They were the original,
But the shareholding structure now, I mean, is there anyone who's an obvious dominant or controlling shareholder?
Not that I know of specifically. I think RMB are still in
either
there.
that or maybe RMB sold on to a private equity group or something.
Blackstar was involved for a while, but I think they also exited. So I don't know if there's any shareholders reference right now.
Look, the share price chart doesn't look so fantastic though. I mean, I think there was some sort of reorganizing, restructuring. They had some quite calamitous destruction of fire damage, like 5 or 6 years ago. Since then, though, I mean, despite the dynamic CEO's presentations, it's tended to be a bit of a spotty performer with regard to earnings.
Yes, So, I mean, the volumes were up 3% in the last set of results. I think the demand has been quite muted. It looks like more muted maybe for wood products and some of the other products that we've spoken about. The big interesting point here, and where people say there's value, is they say that NAV, tangible NAV, that's excluding goodwill, etc., deferred tax, is R6.92. I think the share price is R3.70. So it's a play on the asset play on those biological assets, I guess. But it's like overseas, you get these sort of big timber interests that you can buy for the long term. Obviously, it takes ages for them to mature.
Like REITs.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so with the cycle turning better, demand for the products picking up, the biological underpin and all of that, I mean, are you feeling the heat on this one?
It looks cheap, but I mean, it's pretty boring and it's very liquid, so it's hard to get excited. I mean, if there was some way to unlock that asset play, but in the short term, I don't see that, so I'm not particularly hot right now.
Okay, but we're definitely getting more constructive on this one than where we discussed it in previous shows. Okay, but for the moment, we're not hot yet.